the first time we've done one of these meetings, and we'll kind of talk about the transition from grade 3 to grade 4 at St. John's School. Before I do that, though, I do want to start in prayer as we do at St. John's School. So in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. At the end of this school year, we give thanks to God for all the teaching and learning that has taken place in our school, both in and out of the classroom, for the talents and gifts that we have been shared and the challenges that have been faced, for the respect and care that has been given. We give thanks for the friendships that have just begun and for those that have grown, for the faith that has been lived in our daily struggles, for the hope that has lifted our hearts, and for the love that has kept us going. Amen. And Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. I love the line there. We're thanking God for the love that has kept us going. So as we all know, this has been a unique, interesting, challenging year. But I think that the love that everyone in this community has and shares has really kept everybody going. So, I guess, first of all, thank you for that. I think, one of the main reasons that we've been successful this year, grade 3 included, is because of all the work that you all put in. I mean, the parents have been there hand in hand with us from the very beginning. So we truly appreciate you. I mean, it means a lot to know that you're there and you're sending your love to us every single day. So we appreciate that. And it has been a great year. I mean, grade 3 has been, and it's going to be one of those unique years that the kids always remember. They were in the dungeon in the basement of the church with centipedes and whatever else. I don't know. I hear all these crazy stories. But, I think the end thing is that these kids are learning. It has been a good year for them socially, emotionally, academically. I think when you put it all together, they've done a great job. And I think they've had a great experience that they've been able to be together this year, which isn't necessarily the case for some other classes. I think that's been helpful for them. They've been able to get outside a lot. We've had 2 teachers in there, which is great. So it's really been, for all purposes, all intent purposes, it's been a really positive year for them. And now we're to the point where we're starting to transition into grade 4 and 5. So some of you know that every year for the past, since I've been here, even before I was, we always had a grade 5 transition meeting to talk about what to expect as you move on to middle school. What we've realized over the years is that we've actually smoothed out the transition from grade 5 to grade 6 pretty well. And that it's because in grade 4 and 5, we've increased the rigor, we've changed the schedule. So now the most dramatic shift at St. John's School is actually from grades 3 to grades 4. And so these type of meetings are important just to talk to parents a little bit about, what they can expect for next year, to hear from some of the teachers, and so that we're all on the same page moving forward. Because what we've done in grade 4 and 5 over the past at least 5 years since I've been here, and probably longer with Mrs. McMillan, is we really created an upper elementary school. And it is a system that really is preparing students for middle school. It's more rigorous and more structured than we've seen before, but we're not losing the impact of the one-on-one with the teachers. So I can talk to you a little bit about what it might look like next year. I'm gonna let Angela start talk about that in a second, but I'm gonna offer some high-level thoughts because there's some COVID-related stuff that is still sort of hanging out there. So I know that when I invited you to this meeting a couple weeks ago, I said that, grade 4 is going to be cohorted into 2 cohorts. We're not sure anymore. So if last week the regulations shifted. They've gotten rid of, the Department of Ed has gotten rid of a lot of the distancing guidelines for the fall. That opens up some opportunities for us. I will say that there is a good possibility that grade 4 will be 1 class next year. They will be in the main building, but there's a high probability that the 24 of them, there's 24 right now, will be in the same classroom. So that presents some opportunities and challenges to us. So, Mrs. McMillan and I right now, and as we start to bring on more people, are working through this. So some of the answers we might have tonight may be a little vague because we had the plan, and then last week the Department of Ed dropped this, so things change. So that sort of answers the cohort and thing. I can talk more about that later, but right now I would say it's more likely that this whole class is going to be together rather than separate. So I can sort of start off with that. They will be in the main building. In our grades 4 and 5, and Mrs. McMillan will talk more about this, we do departmentalize, which means that we have a dedicated ELA teacher, we have a dedicated math teacher, we have a dedicated social studies teacher, and we have to have a dedicated science teacher. However, with that said, we have not hired 2 of those people yet. So again, one of these years that we're working forward. I will guarantee you that we are going to put great people on the team. We have done that over the past couple of years. So have faith and trust in us that we're looking for the right people to join our team. As you move into sort of this grade 4 and 5 team, I think one of the biggest things you're going to notice is that the rigor starts to increase. We're asking kids for more. We're asking kids to dig deeper. We're asking them to think more critically. We're asking them to read more in-depth passages. And we're asking them to really begin to start to self-advocating for themselves. So by middle school, mom and dad sort of move off to the side a little bit, right? And these kids need to be on their own. Grades 4 and 5 is a transition. We're trying to get them to advocate for themselves rather than mom and dad. And I think that's a great skill that you'll see that all the teachers try to develop in them. I'm trying to think of other things I had to say before I let go. Those are the main things I was going to say, because my job is sort of from a high level. I'm going to come back after Mrs. McMillan and Mr. Francis talk a little more content about ELA, since we don't have an ELA teacher yet. But I'm gonna ask you to sort of save questions to the end, so write them down. We can have lots of time for Q&A at the end, but let us sort of present the program, and then we'll move forward. So I'm going to let Mrs. McMillan talk a little bit. She's been in the 4 and 5 for 6 years, so she predates me. She's been at St. John's for 7 years, and she does a fantastic job of not only teaching math, but establishing deep, lasting, powerful relationships with kids. So Angela, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hello and welcome. So I see a lot of familiar faces on Zoom, and then I see a lot of new faces, so welcome. So I'm going to apologize now. My sitter canceled last minute, so I have my almost 2-year-old here. Yeah, go sit. So I really apologize. So like Dr. Flieger said, what is 4th grade? 4th grade is that upper elementary. It's that step above elementary where we start adding that rigor, but yet the students are still young enough where they're not quite middle school kids, right? So we're having this conversation about rigor and everything that we're doing, but you can't forget that they're also 9 and 10. Okay, so I understand this and I know this as we go on throughout the year, but there's a lot of main things, I guess. So there's a huge transition. It's very well known to 4th grade that there's a huge transition from learning to read in the younger grades to now you are reading to learn, right? So they're not just regurgitating information that they are reading. They are applying what they are reading. They are using critical thinking skills. Their answers are beyond the text. And this happens a lot in ELA. And so we expect students to be able to read and understand and apply. The expectation is for independent workers. So they start off the year in 4th grade, in my opinion, these young babies. And by the time they leave us at the end of 5th grade, I'm like, holy moly, they are totally different. So there's so much growth that happens in 4th and 5th grade. And I love watching that growth, which is why I'm in 4th and 5th. So the independent workers needs to happen both at school and at home. And this is where communication between parents and teachers are so important. So we expect at school to be independent, right? So I teach a lesson, then the students are working independently. If they need help, they raise their hand, they ask for help. And then at home, I expect that students are independently working on their homework. It's important because I feel like in the younger grades, mom and dad are kind of holding their hand and helping them along through this homework, where now we're expecting them to do it themselves. So I recommend having a great routine at home where it's consistent every single day. So they get home, they have that 10 minutes of free time where they have a snack, and then they get to work at the same spot every day, whether that's a desk in their bedroom, the kitchen table, a desk in the living room, wherever you can. Set up a nice routine, a homework spot for them, a place where they can plug in their Chromebook, because for math, their homework will be on the Chromebook. And so having all their materials, their pencils, their Chromebook charger, anything that they could need, paper, just so that they have that routine, because homework for me and homework for ELA is pretty consistent every single day. And so if they get into that routine early on, it's less stress on the students. It's less stress on mom and dad come, March and April, when we start getting a little sluggish with our homework and we're ready, we see the end of the year coming. And so that's just kind of like a little helpful hint. We want them to take ownership of their learning and their work and actions. If you forgot your homework or you forgot to charge your Chromebook, then that's on the student, right? So we can't be calling mom and dad to bring in homework or their charger. And of course, like, we have a charger in the school, so we'll let them, charge it, but just taking ownership of that. And definitely, like Dr. Flieger said, communicating to the teachers, yes, mom and dad email us, yes, that's okay. But if it happens consistently, we want the students to be able to come up to us and, feel comfortable asking us questions or asking us for help. Now we're at the point of the year in fourth grade right now where I have students emailing me and saying, Ms. McMillan, I didn't understand the math lesson today. Can you help me, or can you send me another video? And so that's kind of where we want your students to be a year from now. These independent learners reaching out to their teachers, reaching out to anyone who can help them. So what we've noticed over the last few years, so Dr. Flieger said, I've been teaching fourth grade for 6 years, and 5 of those years I've been 4th and 5th grade math. And so we've seen at the beginning of the year, especially holding high expectations for these students, as that the beginning of the year is a struggle, and especially 4th grade is a struggle. And so we don't back down and we keep these high expectations. And I will tell you, by keeping the high expectations, the students will rise, and they rise really quickly. Parents struggle to rise with their students. And so we get emails saying it's tough, they're struggling. And then all of a sudden it clicks for them. And the students are like, oh yeah, this actually isn't that bad. It's just different. And so parents do feel overwhelmed more than what the students will. Just email us, communicate with us, but also understand, that your students will rise to the occasion. Let me just see. I'm looking over some more notes. Yeah, I think that's kind of all I really had about like 4th grade and like an overall view of 4th grade.
Can I jump in? So one thing I should mention is, and we should have said at the beginning, the 4th and 5th graders each get a Chromebook. So we give them a Chromebook and they take it home every day. So that's a big change from 3rd to 4th. In 3rd grade, basically they're staying in the class. In 4th grade, the Chromebooks go home. So they need to charge them every day because a lot of the homework is primarily going to be online. So that would be a big shift for them.
Do you want me to move on to like math and religion?
Yeah, because I think the other thing, if you want to talk about that, because why don't you? So I can mention. Why don't you talk about maybe the structure of the day for a second? Like, what is a typical day right now? Knowing that it may look different next year, but what does a typical day look like maybe in grade 4?
Okay, so a typical day, they start off in their homeroom. So they have homeroom. There really isn't any morning work or anything for them to do. Sometimes I have, word searches for them, or draw a picture, or something simple. It's not work that they're missing if they come in right before the bell, but also it's something for them to keep busy while they are maybe the first one in the classroom. Recently, we've been talking about national holidays. And so today's National Running Day. So we have a conversation about running. The bell rings, Dr. Flieger comes on for announcements. After announcements, I usually give the kids about a few minutes to finish unpacking. We have lockers now in 4th and 5th grade, so they will be going to their lockers, making sure they have everything for the morning and whatnot. And then we have a little morning meeting. So it's about a 10-minute morning meeting. We say hello to everybody. I have a question to present to them, and then I open it up to anyone who has anything that they want to share. It's normally about, I won my baseball game last night, or I did a handstand for the first time, or whatnot. And then 9 o'clock is normally when we start right off. If they're in my homeroom, I just start teaching my class, which is math. So they have math for about 50 minutes, switch over to their next class, which is STEM. right now. And then they have about to 10 to 15-minute snack. And then they have ELA, humanities, which is social studies, grammar, spelling, vocab. And then right now they have lunch at 12:30. So they have a 15-minute lunch, 15-minute recess outside on the playground or the blacktop. And because we are with 5th grade, we switch back and forth. So they're either on the playground for the week or they're on the blacktop and grass area for the week. When they come back from recess, I love to give them some downtime. They need it. They work up a sweat. They need a mask break. So we have bathrooms and water and mask break. And right now it's their time. It's going to be switching next year, but they have where they're working on some extra math, which is fact fluency. And then they can also work on anything that they hadn't finished from the morning because their morning is pretty rigid that, if they have any missing work, usually they don't, but every once in a while they have to finish a test or whatnot. And then also reading. After that we have specials at 1:30, so that gives them a good half-hour break. 1:30 they have their special till 2:15. They have it with the other 4th grade class because we are cohorted this year. And then 2:15 from 2:15 to 3 we have religion. And we've started adding some writing into that period as well. Or if there's something like we hadn't finished in math or something else. And then 3 o'clock is pack up and dismissal.
So it's a busy day, right? They're moving place to place. This year, students haven't been able to move. We'll see what happens next year. But it is. If you notice, it's a middle school schedule. There are 4 academic courses in the morning. Then there is an academic religion course in the afternoon. But I think one of the things that they've done, which I credit the 4th and 5th grade teachers, is they've kept this morning meeting in, which is really important. I think that's a nice piece that helps kids, that builds culture. So I think that's been really good. Angela, why don't you talk? Actually, why don't I do this? Why don't I introduce Mr. Francis first, and then I'm going to come back to you. So Mr. Joseph Francis is here. So we're very excited to welcome him to St. John's School. He will be our social studies teacher for grades 4 and 5. I'm going to ask him to go in detail into the social studies curriculum for grade 4. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to make him do that. That wasn't a very good joke. But so I'm going to ask Mr. Francis to get on. I just want him to introduce himself. Talk to them about your background. It's first time you're getting to meet some parents, so have at it.
Well, hello, everyone. It's so nice to see you all on Zoom. My name's Joey Francis. I just graduated from St. Anselm College just a couple of weeks ago with my degree in elementary education and a minor in English second language. This is my first post-grad teaching job, and I'm really looking forward to it. I've always been in Catholic education. I did pre-K through 8 at St. Joseph's School in Holbrook, high school at Cardinal Spellman in Brockton, college at St. A's, and I just finished student teaching at St. Joe's in Needham. So I'm really looking forward to working with your children. 4th and 5th grade, I think, is a really unique age where they're grown enough to be able to work independently, but they still have the best qualities of elementary age kids. So I really look forward to getting to know all of you in the very near future.
One of the great stories is when I was walking Joey around to class, we have 2 students that are on remote in grade 4, and they happened to see him. And then I got an email the next day and saying, we know Mr. Francis. He was at St. Joe's in Holbrook 2 years ago, and he is awesome. And we're so excited that he's going to be there. So just the glimpse of him really brightened the day of people. So we're excited that Joey is going to join our team. So you sort of got an overview of everything. I think let's give you just a couple minutes on some content stuff. I'm not going to go dig too deep into content, but if Angela wants to touch a little bit on math content, then I might say a couple things about ELA, social studies, and STEM.
Hello. I'm excited to work with Mr. Francis this year, so I'm super excited. So math this year, it is super important. I cannot stress this enough. It is super important for your students to know their math facts and quickly. We jump right into the curriculum. And so I know in 3rd grade, Ms. O'Leary does a great job introducing the facts, and students knowing them. And so over the summer, that part of their summer work will be working on math facts. And I'm not just talking about multiplication. They need to know like addition and subtraction and division. It is important for multiplication because we use it in so much, but we start off the year with addition and subtraction. And so, you know, when I'm telling kids that you can't do 3 minus 7, it takes away from the 4th grade rigor, because then we have to take a step back and say, okay, you can't do 3 minus 7, we have to borrow. So it's important for your students to know facts. And just a quick little game that you can play is multiplication war, and you can do this with addition or subtraction. Hopefully next year we'll be able to do centers again, in which I will be able to be working with them a little bit more on this. But you can play war. So you play war with your child, or they can play with a sibling, right? You just flip 2 cards over, you multiply the 2 numbers, or you could add the 2 numbers or subtract the 2 numbers. And so I can send everything out if you want, but jacks are 11, queens are 12s, and then kings are 0. And so yeah, you multiply their facts like that, and it's a fun way. It can be fast, whatever, at their pace. If they get it correct, they get the cards. If they don't, help them out, and then you get the cards. And like I said, you can play addition, subtraction, multiplication, but it is huge for them to know their facts, because an overview of math is addition and subtraction into the 100,000s and even into the millions. Multi-digit multiplication, so 2-digit numbers by 2-digit numbers. Long division, which uses everything we use, and then we do go into fractions and decimals. And so that then leads us into 5th grade work, which we do everything again, but with fractions and decimals. So it is super important for your student to know their facts. For summer work, it will be knowing their facts on top of Khan Academy. So just be prepared, but it is super helpful for me if they know a good chunk of them. Do you want me to go into religion too a little bit, or?
Yeah, go ahead. Why don't you touch on religion too? That'd be great.
Okay, so our religion text right now is broken up into 5 units. I'm not going to go into everything, but basically our first unit is figuring out like who is God, right? Who is Jesus? And then we move on to celebrating in the church, why we go to church and when we go to church. Then we move on to living the faith in our lives today. We go into prayer. What is prayer? How do we pray? And then we end the year with the church year. And so we learn everything throughout the church year. And then, of course, we perform living stations of the cross. So we were able to do it this year. So of course we'll be able to do it next year. So super exciting.
That is one of the highlights of anyone's year, seeing the amazing job they do. I'll touch on a couple things of the other content. I'm not going to talk too in depth. In ELA, one of the big things we're doing, ELA is sort of split into reading, writing, grammar, and vocabulary. The biggest thing we're trying to do is we're trying to create these great writers that use evidence to back up their thoughts and ideas. So this is the big thing. You're pulling from these texts and you're writing, or you're talking about these texts, and you're citing stuff from the actual text. This year, and we'll see if it continues next year with the new ELA teacher, they're doing a lot of like Socratic seminars. They've done that the past couple of years, where they discuss a text and you have to cite evidence and give your opinion. And it's great. We still hit the grammar. One of the things about St. John's School is that every high school knows that when they get a St. John's School student, they are going to write grammatically correct. And we think that is extremely important up and down the level. So you see that a lot in 4 and 5. Social studies sort of builds on, grade 3 is about Massachusetts. Grade 4 is more about the regions of the United States. So you're starting to build into United States history, but it's a lot of geography and looking at how the United States is sort of broken into pieces. And then science, which we really call STEM in grades 4 and 5. It's the most exciting thing to me because we put in a new text about 2 years ago. And what you're going to experience for the first time is a dedicated science teacher who's going to take science. They're going to take it seriously and deeply. And I think when you look at, I was looking here, it's like some of the content you're looking at: waves, Earth features, natural hazards, history of the planet, structures, functions, energy, motion. The grade 4 science curriculum is rigorous. So it's no longer a science curriculum that you sort of just add on to the end. We've gotten away from weather, dinosaurs, and these types of things. And we're really getting into forces in motion. So you're going to see real science, which is really exciting, which would include some labs. Yeah, because that's really great in that. So let's go to the content. We've talked for a little bit. We've given you sort of the overview of maybe what the structure looks like. We've also talked about some of the content pieces. I'm going to open it up for any questions you might have. Right now, we do have 2 open positions on the team, which would be an ELA teacher and would be a science teacher. We're searching and we're trying to find the right person to join our team. But I will let any of you ask any questions that you might have. Feel free to jump in.
Hi, it's Liz Drew. Thank you guys for taking the time to do this. This is a really nice meeting for the parents. Amelia and I are wondering if there's homework in every subject every night.
Good question. I'm gonna let Mrs. McMillan because we have been talking about that recently.
Oh,
So you might want to talk about what we do and what our thoughts are.
So right now, this year, yes, there's homework in every subject. I don't believe that's the case next year. I don't love it. The main focus next year will be math and ELA. So they will have math and ELA homework every night. And for math, that includes the weekend. And so expect homework over the weekend. It won't be hours and hours and hours. It will be the same amount they get every night. And it can be done Friday night, Saturday, or Sunday. As long as it's done by Monday. So if they get into that routine, they get out of school Friday, it's done. You don't even have to think about it. I know right now, Mr. Nardo, this year for ELA did not assign homework over the weekend. Every once in a while he would, but for math, definitely over the weekend. And so maybe towards the end of the year, throw in some science or some social studies, or if they didn't finish something in class, then it would become homework. But yeah, the main goal is about 40 minutes a night, and it's math and ELA.
And I think the only other thing would be like, you're not going to get homework, but if there's assessments, students are going to need, if they haven't mastered in class, they're going to have to go home and study. Like this is, if there's an assessment on the regions of the United States and they haven't mastered that day, then they're going to have to go that night and study that. Or in science, if they don't know what motion is, they're going to have to study that. So that could be additional stuff depending on it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Hi, everybody. It's Tanya. Hi, Mrs. McMillan.
Hi.
I'm Joseph. I just wanted to share, Serafina was just in the room and she had Mrs. McMillan, and she looks back at that year very fondly. She loved her 4th grade. And I know that this all sounds really scary because right now our 3rd graders are our babies. I mean, it's tough to hear all this, but if it reassures anyone, Serafina had a great year, and Angela does a great job kind of getting them to where they need to be. So don't be afraid. I know we'll be in good hands. So, we're excited, and Giovanni's sitting here creeping in on the conversation. So I'll say, but I want to just share that because it was really, really cute. She was trying to get your attention, Angela. And I said, no, stopping. But we love 4th grade, and I'm sure all of us will have a great year. So thank you. And thank you for taking the time, Chris.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's Serafina for 2 years.
Other thoughts or questions that you might have?
Yeah. Are there going to be any field trips?
Hope so. We would love to have field trips. Typically, what have you done in the past for grade 4? I know you've done the Revs
Yeah, so we used to go to Gillette Stadium. I don't know, they stopped that 2 years ago. I don't know why they had kind of postponed it. This was pre-COVID. So we used to do a exercise day at Gillette Stadium, and it was all about health and fitness. And so 2 years ago, yeah, they didn't do it. So I don't know. I would love to go back.
The plan would be, I mean, our hope is that every class goes back to having field trips. Those may look a little different, but we'd love to do it. Yeah. And then what's been in the past the 4th grade service project? I don't know if we'll be able to do that. It's not, is it the Hellenic or is it what was in the past? No.
The senior center.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. So I don't know if we'll be able, we might have to find a different one with the students being unvaccinated when they come back.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a tough one. So we'll find something for them.
Yeah, the senior center is hard to get in touch with. I know some of my past teachers, parents have tried getting in contact with them, and they're tough. So Mrs. Stone has been trying to get in touch with them so we could be pen pals this year. And I mean, here it is June and we haven't done it yet. So they're tough.
Other thoughts or questions? Everyone is so quiet.
Chris, I have a question. I can't remember. Will they have kind of like a step up day or transition day?
Yeah, so we'll do step up day. I'll probably send out some information about that. So it'll be, I think it's the Wednesday of the last week. So the third graders will come over to the building. They'll either go into Angela's class or the gym. We're not quite sure because Angela doesn't have many seats. So this year she's only got, what, 13, actually got less than that, 11 seats. Yeah, so they'll come over and get to meet Mrs. McMillan. Hopefully Mr. Francis will be there. And it's 2 weeks. Who knows? Maybe somebody else will be there too. Because I know they love coming back into the building too.
They do. They do.
One of my favorite times of the year is I had them, I don't know why, but I just started marching them around the building. And we walked like outside. We walked through every classroom. And it was just a fun time.
Quick question. Will the teachers be rotating into the classroom, or will the kids go to the teachers? Is it the same setup as?
We're not sure. I think it sort of depends. One of the challenges we're going to have is that grade 5 will be cohorted. So grade 5 is going to be in 2 separate classrooms, while grade 4 probably will be in 1. So there may not be enough seats for them to get in every classroom. So we're not sure. Ideally, the ideal thing is they would move. However, we're still sort of figuring that one out. But it's nice. I know Angela mentioned lockers, so they love those. Those will be fun. Put those in last year.
Is grade 5 a lot bigger than 4? Is that why 4 won't be a cohort?
26. So once you go past 24, I'm not comfortable having that many kids in a class. I'm comfortable next year having 24. I'm not 26. So yeah, and that's why, to be honest, over grade 4, we lost a couple. I think we gained 1. It's just been sitting at 24 for about a month or 2. And once the new regulations come out, I'm fine with 24 in a classroom. I'm not 26. And that, to be perfectly honest, in a normal year, I'm not comfortable with 26 in a class. I don't think that's what any parent wants. So that's why grade 5 they're at 26. Actually, they might even be at 27 next year. I think. Didn't we add somebody? I don't know. Maybe I just surprised Mrs. McMillan on that one.
Thanks.
It's actually 34. No, I'm just kidding.
Listen, we'll just take over the gym. It's fine.
There you
Put
go.
me on a microphone. We're good. I mean, any questions about like Chromebook use or, I don't know. I feel like my class right now, they're just staring at me because it's June.
They have the same specials. I mean, those stay the same. Give about another minute or two, then we'll let you go eat dinner.
Hi, Dr. Flieger. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mhm.
Do you, it's RNDC. Do you anticipate any after school activities next year? I know it's kind of iffy.
I mean, I would think so. I mean, once you can sort of mix cohorts a little bit, I would think we would have some, so I would think I'd probably say yes. I think the bigger question is less about the distancing and it's what the regulations are going to be around mask wearing. I think there's a high likelihood that kids are going to be in masks to start the year because they're unvaccinated. And until they all get vaccinated, which will probably hopefully be in September, that'll happen. So our challenge is we don't know what the regulations are going to be once kids take those masks off to eat like lunch and those types of things. And we don't know when that's going to come out. So yeah, I'd love to see more after school activities. We'll have before care next year.
Thank you. And what about sports? So I know we had basketball, so we had that league. Will we be joining that again, or
if it's open? So that's the Archdiocese's call. So I mean, basketball leagues are out. I mean, I'm sure your kids, mine are. They're playing soccer. They're playing baseball. They're playing softball. I mean, we're back into gymnastics. So I mean, my assumption would be I don't see any reason why they're not doing basketball.
yeah,
And that starts at that would have been grade 3. So that would be the 3-4 team.
right? Okay, good.
Yeah. All right, last chance here.
Okay, we have one more homework related question. Is math the only homework that is done on the Chromebook?
So I don't know. So for me, homework is on Savvis Realize, which is on the Chromebook. ELA could be because they do have that online component as well. I think,
Science does too.
yeah, well, and social studies. I guess they all have that online component. But I know Mr. Nardo had kind of switched to reading the textbook at night. And being prepared for discussions the next day, which they would have a textbook at home. But yeah, that's up to the ELA teacher, but math for sure is.
Well, one of my big philosophies around like teaching is that we have textbooks and we have a curriculum, but I want to be able to have, when teachers come in here, the freedom to adjust it. So you're going to see, while the content may be the same and they're hitting the same standards, Joey's going to do it differently than Jen Ross did this year. And that's okay. And I think that's really important. So they may look at homework a little differently or look at different approaches to teaching, which is great because every teacher has a unique ability. And as long as we're hitting the content and the standards, it may change a little bit. But yeah, I mean, the Chromebook is a big part of their life. It really is. And that continues on in the middle school.
But it is still the property of St. John's School.
Yes, it is
Yeah.
It
still
is not, right, right.
Does Amelia just want to keep our Chromebook forever or what?
I know.
Do you want to keep the Chromebook? Yes.
Yes, there is. We give them a list of sites that they can go to and that are approved for in-school use and hopefully homeschool use as well.
Anything else? All right. Well, I mean, so we're here. I mean, Mr. Francis starts in a little bit, but really, Mrs. McMillan and I, if you have questions, I mean, shoot them to us. If something comes up, we will have Step Up Day at the end of the year. Mrs. Kaplan, Margarita is going to be our room parent for next year. So we're excited about that, which is awesome. So we're glad that she stepped up to do that. Other than that, I mean, it's been a great year. When I know more details, I think so.